We are joined on this episode by an actor, a martial artist, a fight choreographer, and much more. He has been a stunt performer in everything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lucifer to Captain Marvel and A Quiet Place Part 2, out now. You can also see him right now on Amazon Prime, standing across the ring from Cassius Clay and Regina King's Oscar-nominated film One Night in Miami, where he portrays boxer Sonny Liston. He is Aaron D. Alexander. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on the program, sir.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
We were just talking before. I'm really excited to have a stunt person on the show today because we have never had the opportunity to have someone with that profession on. So we have all sorts of fun questions for you.
Sweet. I'm happy to be the first. I hope I pave the way for many more to come on the show and I don't ruin it for everybody.
No, I've overused the term Renaissance man and Renaissance woman for a few of our guests, but you are the epitome of the slash. You are many things, and I only named a few. Not only that, this has been a long time coming. Aaron can tell you if he showed you his DMs, not only would you see a lot of scandalous things, you'd see me bugging him about every 4 weeks, going, man, we got to get you on, because he was on our early short list of guests, and it's just, he's been a busy man, and it's one of those things where he's like, oh no, I'm going to be on set that week, and part of me's like, Ben Affleck and Good Will Hunting, I'm like, I'm glad he's not there. He's working. That means he's working.
Yeah, it means he's working. Yeah, that's always, you stay busy, stay out of trouble. That's the way I see it.
But no, it's good to finally lock you down.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So launching in, the way we always start is we ask, how'd you get the bug for movies, maybe for acting as well as martial arts? Was there a movie, a TV show, maybe a person that inspired you and kind of sparked that initial love?
All of the above. Everything you actually just listed actually came into one. I was a very hyperactive child, and back when it wasn't looked down upon, my parents would sit me down in front of my grandmother's big tube television, and I would watch like the Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon Kung Fu movies. And back then, trying not to age myself too much, but back then it would be like, young Jackie Chan, young Jet Li, young Donnie Yen, and then Bruce Lee came in. And then I'd also see like Ron Van Cleef, because there'd be like a couple of exploitation movies that would be thrown in the mix. And I was just like, I want to, literally like 3 years old, I want to do that. That's what I want to do, because I thought somewhere in my head that was acting. Like that whole, everything they did was acting, from the kicks, the punches, the flips, everything. That was all acting. And so I was like, that's what I want to do. And so I'd literally go in my grandmother's backyard, climb a tree, and start jumping out of it, freaking my parents out. My mom's like, we need to put them in gymnastics. And so from the age of 4 till 12, so for 8 years, I trained gymnastics. And then after gymnastics, going into my 13th birthday, my parents put me in martial arts, Taekwondo to be specific. And so that in my head, I was just like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And then as I got older, I realized, oh, no, that's not the acting part. The acting is the saying the words and stuff. And like, it's physical acting. But then I went to a very small private school that didn't have a theater program. But I always was just like, I want to entertain. I want to entertain. I want to entertain. And then when I got the chance, I went to college for theater. And from there, I got a lot of tools to understand what acting really is, especially coming from a place that I had no idea what it was, and being thrown in with some peers that I still have to this day who came from high schools of doing like one acts and all these other performances, to me just being like, oh yeah, William Shakespeare, I know that dude. I read his book. And they're like, what do you mean you read his book? And I literally was that kid who like would go to the public library, and the complete works, I'd read it like it was an actual book. And I just thought it was cool because I knew who was talking, because it had their name on the side. But yeah, and then like I said, I got the tools, took a stage combat class, and I was just like, oh, wait, this goes hand in hand. And then after I graduated college, I was just like, I'm going to put everything together. And then I found a guy back in Austin, Texas, who was teaching stunt classes. I found him on the set of Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror. He was awesome. Bruce Willis. Yeah, he was Bruce Willis's stunt double, just to do a one-handed cartwheel. That was all. That was it. And he passed out these flyers, and he was just like, I'm teaching these classes. And he passed it out to all of the like the background extras. Like I played like a military extra, and he passed out all these flyers, and he's like, come learn stunts. That way, in his words, that way our jobs won't be taken from those guys in California. And I was just like, yeah, Texas, let's work. Yeah. And then I trained with him for 8 years. and got a really good insight of like the stunt world. But then I was just like, I really love acting. Stunts is fun because I'm physically capable. I want to put them together. And then to throw on the list of inspiration started being Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, Marco Zaror. Those guys were like the ones where I was just like, well, they're actually playing roles I could see myself playing. And then I was just like, let me be inspired by them to like try to follow that path. And I never shied away. And like still to this day, there are people who only know me as an actor and only know me as a stuntman, but there are very few who see the actor trained in stunts. And I like it because having moved to California, been here for going on 4 years now, I like to say that I walk in both worlds and I don't close the door on anything. Like I came out here with a purpose and I was just like, I just want to work. And as Sean has mentioned, I can't say I work a lot, but I'm starting to get to the point where work is being very consistent because it's like, 1 week I'm acting, the next 2 weeks I'll be doing stunts or the vice versa, it'll flip. And so it's really fun to see how the path started and how the path is going. So
no, you're being modest. You work a lot.
I do work a lot.
Yeah, just thinking about what you're saying growing up, I know from being raised on a lot of action movies, all these action stars, that were also martial artists. I mean, that was acting to me, like movie stars, we're also like physical performers. Yeah. So I totally understand that perspective of not really separating them in your mind until you were older. Did you grow up in Houston?
I did. Houston, Texas, born and raised.
You talked about it a little bit. Were there many opportunities there in Houston as you're growing up to explore those interests other than maybe some of the martial arts classes? So it wasn't until you were in college and going out to Austin that you got to be ingrained in more of like exposure to the actual film.
Yeah. I had a very sheltered childhood. It was either I was at school or I was at home or I was at my best friend's house or I was at my martial arts school or I was at the movie theater. So, like I grew up watching a lot of movies. The closest thing I would say that I had a tie-in to the film at first was where I trained for Taekwondo, Black Belt Academy. My instructor, Jimmy Tabarez, was in Sidekicks. And so when you walked into the dojo, the whole wall was like him and Chuck Norris and Jonathan Brandis and him and Joe Pesci. And this is a weird thing that we can talk about later or not. It doesn't matter. I have an eidetic memory and I've had an eidetic memory since I was very, very little. So if I see something and I watch it and I hone in on it, it basically gets like ingrained in my brain. And I watch Sidekicks a lot. I watched it a lot. And my instructor was literally in a clip that was basically like that fast. And I remember walking in and when I saw him, before I even saw the pictures, I was just like, hey, you were in Sidekicks. And he's like, what? How does this kid know? And then he points at the wall and I'm like, yeah, you were in that part where like the camera moves over and you just punch the guy in the face. And he's just like, that's oddly specific and correct. And I was just like, yeah. And so it's a blessing and a curse. I creep some people out sometimes. But yeah, so that was like the first true taste of like, I'm being taught by somebody who was in a movie and this and this. And so his nickname for me was Junior Blade because Blade was like the hotness when I was like training. And so he was just like, yeah, I see you as being Junior Blade. Cause he also knew I wanted to be in movies and entertain and stuff. So he was just like, yeah, you're Junior Blade. And so he just called me Junior Blade all the time. So
it's a pretty sweet nickname.
Oh, it was an awesome nickname. It was an awesome nickname. And then my friend Brian, who I also trained with at a young age. Together, we were called the Fly Knights because we would jump and flip and kick all over the place. And so they'd be like, oh, it's Junior Blade. Oh, it's Brian. They're the Fly Knights. And I was just like, yeah, nicknames. Yeah.
Halfway to a wrestling federation of your own.
Oh, man, I wish.
We'll talk about that later because you've done a bit of everything. Speaking of, so you stunt doubled for actors like Dee Dee Woodside and Jaimon Hansu on shorts, TV shows, features of all sizes. But we want to get a little bit into the nitty gritty of stunts. Like, we're curious first, what is the craziest stunt you yourself have pulled off to date?
The craziest would have to be the first biggest stunt I ever did after I moved to California. I, putting up my bunny ears, fake drowned, quote unquote, fake drowned in the Pacific Ocean in Hawaii. And so it was a very crazy stunt. Before I even got the job, the guy who hired me, who is now a good friend of mine, Vlad Rimberg, he was like, "Can you swim?" And I was like, "Yes, I can swim." He was like, "Can you hold your breath?" And I was just like, oddly enough, I can. Unfortunately, I don't float because muscle. And I learned at a very, I can't say young age, but just I learned over time how to hold my breath underwater since I can't float. And so I was just like, because I like to swim. And so like I'm crazy in all of my like training aspects and all of that stuff, the things that I do to just like make sure I'm good at certain things. And like if I get into a swimming pool, I'll see how long I can stay underwater swimming from wall to wall, long ways. That's like how I train. And so I was just like, yeah, I can hold my breath pretty good. He's like, okay, cool. And so when I got there, there's like, okay, they took cameras on this big boat. They take me out on this little safety boat. And then they're just like, okay, here's the scene. Cameras pointing down at the water. This actor is going to jump in and swim out. You are going to be under the water. And now you can't be up too close to the surface because the camera's going to pick you up. So we just need you to swim down there and stay down there. And the actor's going to come get you. And I was just like, okay, on action, they're like, no, you're just going to have to jump down there. And I'm like, okay, all right. And so it was one of those things of just like, bye. Like the whole crew is just standing there like waiting for me. It's like, okay, get underwater. We burning daylight. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I jump in, and it's the first time the actor came out, and the water is out. If you've never been to Hawaii, please go if you ever get a chance, because it's beautiful. But the water was super clear. And the actor dives into the water because he was swimming out on a surfboard. And I see his eyes just get super big. And I was like, uh-oh. And I was like, is he not going to be able to come get me? And then he comes down and he gets me, and we go up, and he's just like, and I'm like, hey, man, are you okay? He's like, dude, you were so far down there. And I'm like, oh, no, we need to find a happy medium. And so we worked it all out. We did it about, I think, like 4 or 5 times. And then it was like, I just fake drowned in the ocean. That's crazy. And so that by far is one of the craziest actual, like, me having to do something stunts. Other than that, my most painful stunt, I was dropped 15 feet onto the edge of a stage and I had to bounce off of it. It was great. It felt great. It was the first time I actually thought to myself, I don't think I want to do stunts anymore. But then I was just like, no, it's okay. I just, now I know I've got it out of the way. I can do that. And then I don't like heights, but I stood on the edge of, if anybody is familiar with downtown in LA, the USC building, it's 30 stories high. Mm-hmm. I stood on the ledge, and not just the actual ledge. It was a extra ledge built by production because the actual ledge of the building was too close in. So they had to build out, and I had to stand with my toes basically over the edge. I was hooked in with the safety wire, but it still was one of those moments of like, okay, the things I do. And so, and I have friends that have done crazier stuff, like get hit by a car, set on fire. That's not for me. And so like, I like, people were like, have you ever done a car hit? I'm like, never will. Never. I'm sorry. That's one thing I'm just
not
like,
after that great stage disaster.
Oh man, that's it. Yeah. No, the other coordinator right afterwards, he said he could relate that stunt to a car hit because when I hit the stage, he was like, you had no control of your body. And I was like, I didn't. And he was just like, it's great. And I'm like, what? Okay, sure.
Really good. Yeah. It looked really good. I'm sure it looked like hell, but we got the shot. It
looks great in the show. I do believe it's Lucifer episode. It's the first episode of season 4. I get tossed across the club and smacked in the background. It's great. It was great. It looked great.
Man. So if it maybe wasn't that crazy Pacific Ocean stunt, what is the most complicated one you've done? Like a stunt that took the most time to kind of prepare for and really think through how you'd execute?
There's a scene coming up actually, and that's in the upcoming season of Lucifer. that I didn't have a big part in it, but there was a lot of moving parts, and I'm actually really excited to see how it turned out. It's basically just one character just wrecking shop, and it was just like had to be timed perfectly, all of this stuff. And so it was very cool to come in and rehearse it. And what's funny is we rehearsed it around, I want to say like the end of February, like before the pandemic even happened. But then when we filmed it, it was like, news was coming around the world that there's this virus going around and everybody should be safe and like cover your cough, and like masks weren't even thought of at the time. And so it was like really weird because like right then it was like on the cusp, because then we were also prepping for, at that time, season 5 finale. And like right when we were prepping for that, I remember the week before we shot it, we were getting text messages from the coordinators and stuff, and just being like, "You guys ready? We had a great rehearsal. Production's ready for it. All right, just wait for our text." And then like the next text was on like Thursday, and there's just like, "All right, Monday's the day. This, and this." And then Friday it was just like, everything's canceled. And it's like, what just happened? And then like you literally see the news, and like I saw like a whole bunch of my other friends in the industry of just like, everything's canceled. But to go back to what you're saying, like I'm really excited now that season 5B is coming out, because like, yeah, and I wish I knew the episode, but I guess you can consider it a fight, but usually most fight scenes are actually the most intricate that you really got to do, especially depending on the length and depending on like what's happening within them. Because sometimes we got wire gags in a fight scene, or sometimes somebody's being thrown and then someone's coming back in. And so it's just like, depending on how they want to film it, it gets pretty like, is this trigonometry? Like, what is it? Like, how are we supposed to do this and stuff? And so, but yeah, this upcoming season, there's a fight. It's going to be great.
Awesome. So over a year in the making.
Yeah, well over a year in the making. Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there a stunt that you would really like to do that you haven't had a chance to yet? I know there's some you don't want to do. You talked about those.
I want to do another superhero fight scene. 2 years ago, I helped with the previs portion of Jupiter's Legacy, which is out now on Netflix. And I was part of the LA previs crew. And going into it, they were just like, okay, yeah, this is a superhero show. And like, I'm a fan of Mark Millar. And so I was like, I know what this is. So I'm ready. It's like, I'm ready for it. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. This is, the hilltop fight scene with Black Star and everybody. And I was like, great, this is going to be awesome. And they're like, you're Black Star. And I'm like, what? Oh yeah. And so basically, for those who don't know, Black Star is like the Millar World's version of Doomsday in a way, but way more active in his attacks and not just like a brute force. He has like this antimatter heart that can shoot lasers and big EMP blasts, and he can go nuclear and completely destroy everything. And so it was really cool he can't fly. He has these rocket packs on it, but he can't like Superman fly, but he's fighting against all these characters that can float. And I was just like, man, I want to kind of float a little bit and do this. But it was really cool to be in that position of like, right now you have super strength. So you can grab this person by the leg and chunk them all the way across the room. And you're going to get hit with a rock that's going to send you spiraling back into the air. And I was like, man, this is great. And so that was like, it was really fun. Cause also that's like my imagination too. Cause that's kind of why I'm in the industry. It's just like, I love the fantastical. And so doing another superhero fight would be fantastic.
No, we have a feeling you'll get there sooner than later.
Yeah, trying.
No, you will. Even if it's as a heavy or something like that.
Yeah.
What would you say? Is there something about being a stunt performer that might surprise a lot of people? Is it that half your stunts are simply falling down on the crash pads?
No,
or is there something like that?
Well, even with that is you have to know how to do some to a certain extent, some extremely dangerous things as safe as possible. It's like they're like, car stunts, people who do car stunts. I'm like, you're not in control of that thing. I mean, you are in control of it, but the way you got to hit things at the right time and press this button so the car can do this, it's like you're just hoping that once you do it, that's the way it goes. And like you can set it up, you can train it as much as possible. But like on the day, it's always like, you know, I know some guys who do like it's called the air ram, and it's basically a catapult that you run up off of, and it just launches you in the air as soon as it feels your pressure. And I know guys who told many horror stories of like, yeah, I was running up the air ram and it went off. I didn't fly. My leg shattered. But it's like, you can't control that. It's just like, it's just how your foot steps on it. And so it's just being so comfortable and ways being so fearless. That's like, you know, I got this. And like, you know, finding those people who have extreme specialties in the extreme, that's crazy. Like, you know, you get the stunt drivers, you get the motorcycle guys, you get the guys who love being set on fire. It's like, cool, you do that. I'm going to stick to just throwing punches and kicks because I can control my fists. I can control my feet. And I can't control the distance of the other person because sometimes they get a little excited and move in a little bit, but it's still like having to be aware and like no matter what situation, no matter what stunt you're doing, it's like being aware because even if I fall a certain way, if there's somebody by me, I have to make sure I don't fall on top of them unless that's actually part of the stunt. And so there's a lot of planning and a lot of like, I like to say it a fun way, strategery in developing stunts and all the coordinators to have the mindset for it of just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. They get the script, they look at it and they're like, all right, I see it. We can do something like this. And then they show it to production. And then the production can be like, oh yeah, I see it. Or they can be like, nah, we don't like that. Switch this. And then it's everyone's job to be on board of being like, all right, we got to switch it on your toes. Let's go be able to change instantly and stuff. And so there's a lot of, I don't even know the right word for it, but there's a lot that just goes into just stunt performing. Cause like even a fall, if you fall the wrong way, that's your shoulder, that's your knee. It's just like the little fall, like someone can trip and fall and just be like, oh, I actually twisted my ankle on that because I just wasn't thinking about that one spot. And it's just like, you really got to like look and test everything.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, like to your point earlier, about like physics involved in it and just like understanding how the body works, but also kind of going back to your point, there's a lot of creativity too, especially with fight choreography. I'm getting the impression, maybe you can tell me if this is true or not. Is it your favorite part of being a stunt person? The fight? Okay.
I love fighting.
Yeah. Why would you say it's your favorite? Is it because you kind of get to be creative and like, invent something out of nothing? Or is it just like bringing those kind of fantasies to life, like you talked about with Jupiter's Legacy?
I think, again, it's like all of the above, because for me and a lot of the, like what they call like film fighters and stuff, I think the base is they got inspired by someone in the past or someone they know or I know guys who were inspired by Donnie Yen who've been able to work with Donnie Yen. And it's just like, they're like, this is like cool. And then they get to see his process and they get to see how he works. And then they're just like, this was great. I got to work with like my inspiration and stuff. And for me, fighting, I mean, I'm a very physical person. It's just the nature. And I think because I used to, like when I lived in Texas, I actually used to teach fight choreography classes. And what I would always say is just that I like helping make other people look like a badass. And to me, how they say, cool guys walk away from explosions and stuff like that. And I was like, nah, to me, you want to look like an ultimate badass, you do a fight scene. It could be like the simplest thing from like you just do one punch and knock the guy out, or you do this amazing Ong Bak 4-minute one take. It's like either way, it's going to be bad. It's going to be badass because you're just going to be like, oh, that's like true physicality at its like expression. And so and Bruce Lee had a quote, and I'm going to misquote it. I wish I had it in my head, but it was just like, that is the human expression. It's like the physicality. It's like, put it in your body. And if you can do that and you can like portray that, it's something that just, it speaks to everybody because everybody is real. They're physical. Whether you've hit somebody or not, you can still look at it and be like, oh, that's actually like good. And if it's done well, it's also going to be like, oh, that was really cool. And so for me, whether I'm doing the fight or getting beat up, either way, I'm just like, I was a part of that. I was a part of like, you know, that cool fight scene. And hopefully when we're filming it at the end, when the editors get it and everybody gets it, that it comes out to just be something that people can go, that was cool. That was a cool fight. That was a cool fight. Like with One Night in Miami, for that one, all we really did was recreate the actual fight between Cassius Clay and Sonny Liston. And like, we took a couple of liberties with like some jabs here and there, but it actually was, you could like look that fight up on YouTube and look up the last, I don't know how many minutes in the round. And you can like just do it side by side and you go, oh, cool. This is just more of a in the ring view rather than outside the ring. See both of them go. And so many people afterwards just like, dude, you got beat up so bad. And I was just like, yeah. It's like, I really didn't. But as long as that's what you think, yes. It's like, we did our job right. If you think I got the snot beat up out of me, great. And so it's just adding to that entertainment factor. And I feel that fight scenes, even though at sometimes very difficult to me, my opinion, are the most entertaining. And so, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong. That Bach winner, like that was one of my favorite things to show people because there was like, holy crap, this scene is amazing. So I love that.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you about One Night in Miami. What cool opportunity to work with an amazing cast, amazing woman at the helm of it. She lives up to her namesake as being royalty for sure.
Yes.
So how did that all come about? So did you audition for a role, maybe the role of Ali, but you're also credited as a fight coordinator to your point that you kind of helped execute that pivotal fight. So how did all those things come together for you?
By luck, by a tremendous amount of luck and prayer and more prayer and me just being like, if it happens, it happens. And so I initially came in with the original stunt coordinator. I do believe he might be credited as the supervising coordinator. And my friend Vlad, again, brought me in. And he was like, okay, cool. We're going to basically recreate these boxing scenes. And I was like, okay, cool. We're going to recreate the boxing scenes. And then while I was there, because this is the first time I ever met this coordinator, Clayton Barber, famous coordinator. I was like, well, every time I meet somebody, I want to show them I'm good. I'm good. I'm not just like, not trying to be conceited or anything, but it's like, you know, you want to show that you have skills that they've never seen in someone like you. And so like, that's my main thing. I want to show people, look at me, hire me. It's like, hire me for things. If I don't get to work on this, hire me for something in the future because I know you work. And like, because Clayton Barber, he was the coordinator on Creed 2, like he has worked. And so I was like, all right, cool. And so we started just looking at the fight scenes, the boxing matches on YouTube. And then we started training them. I'm over here punching a bag. And then Clayton, he shows me the picture of the guy who they originally wanted to play Sonny Liston. And I was just like, okay, yeah, he can play him. Yeah, he's not that bad. And then he goes, how tall are you? And I was like, 6'2". And he's like, well, how much do you weigh? And I was like, around like 225. And he's just like, okay. I didn't think anything of it. And he was just like, okay, this is going to be a perfect matchup. Okay, cool. And he showed me the guy who was playing Cassius Clay, Eli Gorey, amazing guy. And then we start creating we spent, I want to say, a good 4 days of doing all the choreography. And then I think it was like on the third day before we even got to working on the Sonny Liston choreography, he was just like, all right, Regina doesn't like the other guy. I'm going to put your name in the hat because I've seen you off on the side. I like you. You also can act. And he's like, I like working with stunt guys that have that ability and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he goes, all right, so this previs is going to be your audition tape. And I'm like, okay, all right, no problem. And so I was just like, don't suck. Just don't suck. And so we did it. And then I think I was actually on the set of Lucifer. And then Clayton called me and he said, and these words echo in my head, which was like amazing. He goes, Regina likes you. So the next people that might call you is production. He goes, congratulations. And then then he hung up the phone. And I was just like, wait, what just happened? And they're like, Aaron, we need you. I'm like, oh, what just happened? And then I was actually working my old side job. And I remember, I used to manage a kickboxing gym and I'm sitting at the desk and no one's in there. It's like slowest day ever. And then I get a call. And it's from New Orleans. And I'm like, hello? And they're just like, hey, this is costuming with One Night in Miami. Are you going to be flying out here soon? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they're just like, oh, I'm sorry. This is Aaron Alexander, right? I'm like, yes. And they're like, and you're playing Sonny Liston, right? And I go, am I? I go, am I? And they're like, yeah, according to our notes. And like, yeah, we got to get your sizes and all of this stuff. And I was just like, what's going on? And then I think it didn't set in until I went and did the costume fitting, which was super simple. It was his period boxing shorts, his shoes, the big socks. And they were just like, okay, yeah, stand there. We're going to send a picture to the costume head. And I'm just like, and then the lady goes, oh, yeah, I see it. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. And I'm just like, okay, this is cool. Yeah. And then when we actually started shooting, Larnell Stovall stepped in for Clayton because Clayton had to go off and do some other stuff. And so Larnell Stovall became the stunt coordinator. And because at that point, then I was the only person from the original team that put the fights together. They filmed the Sonny Liston and Ali fights first. And so it was like 2 weeks of work. And then they filmed the first fight that you actually see in the film between Cassius Clay and Henry Cooper in the last week. And so they were just like, hey, do you want to stay on as the fight coordinator since you know the fight like backwards and forwards? Like I knew both fights backwards and forwards. Again, there's that eidetic memory because even when we were creating the fights at the boxing gym, I would sit there and watch them. And I'd be like, okay, that part's there, that part's there, that part's there. And then, of course, we had video reference. And so when it came time to train it, I'd be like, oh, no, remember, you do this move here. And then it's just like, Larnell's just like, yep, go ahead. He knows. Go do it. He's like, but then Larnell would come in and be like, ooh, put this beat in there, do this. And so like, it was like a really team effort. But it was like one of those things where like, I remember we were driving to the studio, Larnell and I, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna tell production we're gonna keep you on for another week so you can be the fight coordinator. And I'm like, what? Because like it would have ended up being like a 2-week job for me and then back home. Then it was just like 3 weeks and I get to stay on and I get to like be on set more. And I was like, yes, this was amazing. And yes, Regina King is by far one of the just best people in the world, but like also just like her work ethic as a director. I was just like, wow, just like, and it's just like little things that she would do that I was just like, I'm amazed by this. But yeah, but again, it goes back to what you were just talking about. It's just like, I get to be a part of these fights that are like super important in this time period, in this story, but also at the same time, were really cool. And it was really cool to film them. And it was an amazing experience.
No, and it sounds like the right people went to bat for you. And then also you working with Eli. It sounds like Eli put the good word in too. Like, hey, I get along with this guy. We match up well.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because I was going to ask you, my follow-up was, did you also, because of your credit as a coordinator, have anything to do with the Henry Cooper fight that opens the movie?
Yeah. It was Sean Monahan, who played Henry Cooper. That dude is actually a retired professional boxer. And he is amazing. He's probably like the most humble person in the world, but I'm going to toot his horn. He is amazing. And it was my first time actually working with a real professional athlete and getting them to actually tone down what they actually know how to do and make it for film. Because he was like, there would be parts where he's like throwing a hook punch and he's just like, but I'm missing him. Like he's so far away. And they're like, yes, you want to miss him. And he's like, really? Because that doesn't look good. It's like, no, it doesn't look good to you, but to the camera, it's going to look amazing. And then I'll go, and I remember we made a joke of just like, because if you hit him, I mean, the whole movie's over. it's like you get, movie's over, you're fired, we're fired. It's like we're shutting the whole thing down. So just make sure, we always would say like, he's like all the way in China. And we were like, China. We'd always be like, China, 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 just screaming China so he can miss him. Just like, make it a big miss, big hook. And he's just like, okay. But yeah, it was like a really awesome experience to like do that, and then but be on the outside, like running from where they had Video Village. It was my first time ever like sitting in Video Village watching a monitor. Regina King's right next to me. The take ended. I look over at her and she's like, you saw it? And I go, yes, ma'am. And then I like book it to the ring and be like, hey guys, it was great, but when you get to this part, make sure again you shift this way because the camera's over here. And both of them being like, yeah, okay, we got it. And it's like, all right, cool, back to one. And then I book it back to Video Village, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I have those moments. So I'm just like, Regina King is next to me, Keith Calder is next to me, Jessica Wu, like the producers, the right. I'm just like, don't freak out. You're supposed to be here. This is amazing. Let's work. And so it was, again, just the experience was amazing.
And the fights look good. I mean, that movie is worth watching. If anybody has not seen it, Amazon Prime, it's got a few Oscar nominations. I know Leslie Odom got an acting nomination. Mm-hmm. Its performances alone are good.
Yeah.
Sonny Liston, he's all right. The fights are good too. Yeah. No, trust me, Regina King. Yeah. I don't feel like she's ever had a disingenuous moment. She always feels like she's exactly as advertised.
Yeah,
I mean, she has stolen scenes in movies even long before she was considered an A-list person. I can cite Jerry Maguire, even she's stealing the few scenes she's in. So she's amazing.
Yeah.
On that note of like all your training, you've had a few different disciplines throughout, the martial arts and stuff. Like, be it the discipline, be it the focus, or otherwise, what about that training has maybe helped you in the industry? Maybe informed you as an actor, even.
I think you actually just said it, the discipline and the focus. Those I come from, not even come from, most of the martial arts I train are very traditional in some way or some form. And I think it's that having respect for what you are doing or what you are about to learn or what you're about to experience has truly helped me keep that, I like to say, the tunnel vision on my profession and my career. And it's one of those things where, again, I don't like to say it, but it's just the truth. I am crazy. Like I always say, it's like if you call somebody crazy and they're like, no, I'm not crazy, don't believe them. But if someone actually self-admittedly says they're crazy, you should absolutely believe them. And just looking back at like all of the things that I've done, I couldn't have done them if I wasn't crazy. And, I pride myself in being able to become a chameleon in anything that I do, to the point where people can see me, whether it be on the stage or on the screen or on TV, and they go, oh, I didn't even know that was you. And I'm like, good, I did my job. Because the moment someone's just like, oh, that's just Aaron, I'm gonna be like, oh, man, I didn't. But for me, it is the focus of like all the just the physical things that I have done, mental things too, because being most of the styles that I've learned are traditional, there is some type of meditation part to it and like focus on certain things or sit down. And so when you're learning lines, you got to like really just like hone in on those lines. And it's the same thing for me with choreography. I learn choreography to a point to where if I'm learning it with people, I've been taught through like just process of elimination and working with other amazing fight coordinators and fight choreographers and stunt coordinators that you should be able to do it by yourself. And so like I could like work with 6 other people, and then I can go home and I should be able to do that exact same choreography, but visualize those 6 other people. And so it's like having that, all right, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to get done. And so far it's paid off. Again, it pays to be crazy. It pays to be obsessed with your craft and everything. I'm not method, thank God. So I can they call action, I turn it on. They call cut, I turn it off. And it's just like, some people are just like, ooh, I actually just worked on a project Saturday and Sunday where it was just like right before they called action, they were just like set. And then it's like, I was playing a character that It was like an alien creature. And I'll give you an example to show you. They were like, set. So you're supposed to reply, set. And some people would just be like, set, like up the intensity, like set. And I would go, set. Like, because I'm like the alien, because like turn it on like right then and there. I'm supposed to punch through this wall. So Aaron's not going to punch through that wall. It's like, I got to become this creature to like do this. And then like, once they call cut, I'm like, all right, let's see playback. And then they're like, you're scary. And I'm just like, good. It's like, I'm doing my job. And so it is having that laser focus and that, again, that discipline to just continue to be able to ultimately, especially in this industry, just take the direction that you're given. They give you what their specific view is. And then it's always fun to be able to do that. And they go, yes, I loved it. Okay, now let's do it one more time, but have fun with it. Then you get to show your creativity. And then they might be like, oh, I actually like that. Can you do it again? Or they could just be like, okay, cool, we're done with that. It's like, that was terrible. But you still got to play around a little bit. So, but definitely it's the discipline, the dedication, all the focus, all of that just like goes hand in hand with each other.
Right. And then in a kind of a similar vein, and you even touched on it in your answer, like the stunt and the fight choreography experience, would you say that also gives you a leg up with the acting because it's a bit of rehearsal and it's a bit of intricacy? Does that sort of inform the acting as well?
I actually like to say the acting has given me a leg up in the stunt and the fight choreography because I know what the other side is. And so in certain situations where if I am working with someone who's only acting and their job is like, okay, because the camera is going to be on them, they have to throw a couple of kicks and punches that we've worked with them closely in rehearsals. I know how to communicate with like, okay, turn your hip over a little bit. You know, don't bog them down. Like they have thousands of other things going in their head of like emotional content, all of this stuff and their lines, and then like their actual character and what their character needs to bring to this, like all these things going on in their head. Where on the other end, just as the stunt guy, I'm just like, okay, I get hit and it's supposed to hurt. Super simple, basic. So I can go to them and instead of being like, okay, what you're going to need to do, you're going to need to step this way, turn your left this way. Like instead of bogging them down with all that stuff, I'll just be like, hey, just turn your hip a little bit more. And then they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Whereas some people in the industry can't do that because some people are just like, something's not working. What's not working? And they can't pinpoint it. Whereas I'm like, when working with actors, I put on my acting brain of just being like, okay, what are they experiencing right now in this fight? Okay, this, and this, what's going to help them? This. Okay, now as the stunt guy, I can go to them and be like, yeah, just do this. Or be like, if I'm really supposed to give them something after we do a scene or after we do a take, I always ask them, what do you need from me? And then they can easily say, maybe give me a little bit more space. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Give you a little bit more space so you can do this. Anything else you want to do? And they're just like, oh no, I'm just going to play with it. Let's see what's going to happen. And then sometimes I'm just like, they don't want to like hurt me. And I'm just like, no, just give me something. It's like, give me something. I'm not going to do it to you, but like, you know, really like you can grab my shirt, you can push me, you can do this because ultimately, I still have to stay in control of my body because if I'm all over the place ragdolling, it's going to be like, okay, this isn't working. I'm putting too much effort onto them. So like they still need to stay strong in their performance. I need to stay strong in mine. And so it ends up being that the acting that I've done helps me communicate more when I'm in the stunt world rather than the stunt world helps me communicate more with the acting. And so it's really weird that way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I liken it to like a lot of different roles on set. It's really helpful to have those experiences because you can communicate with people so much better. If you're a director who has never acted before, I don't know how, even if it's just, small little projects you're doing for fun, like once you put yourself in those shoes, you kind of get it. And to your point, there's so much going on in an actor's head that knowing how to communicate that with them in an effective way and also being able to adapt because there's so many different styles of acting. I've worked with actors where it's like, usually it's like the worst thing you do is like give them something to imitate, they always say, oh, don't, start with the emotional core, all those things. I had one actor where it's like, nope, he needed me to tell him to act like John Wayne.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what worked for him.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just like, until you've been in their shoes, sometimes you don't really, you're going by the book instead of by like what that actual experience is like.
Yeah.
So I can totally relate in a very different way.
I think the best experience I ever had was, I was doing a stunt and they needed me, I forgot exactly what it was, but they needed me to do this one thing because I was doubling an actor, and they were just like, well, we're seeing a lot of you, but it's all from behind. So it's like, but we need like this kind of body language. And I don't want to like play into the stigma, but there are a good number of people out there who look at stunt performers as the dumb jocks. And so they're just like trying to like tiptoe around things, trying to be very simple. And I remember this one guy who was part of production. I think he was like a camera operator, and he was just like, Aaron, okay, so what we're seeing on this is this, and we kind of need you. And I go, so you just need me to do this, this, and this, and this. And he goes, yeah. And I go, cool, got it. And he's like, okay, let's shoot it. And I'm like, just say it. It's like, I was like, I'm not like, what do you need me to do? No, it's like, but that's again, like for me, it's where the acting part, because I'm not going to lie. There are some stunt performers who are just straight up like, they don't even give them lines that they got to say. Like, even if they're a goon, don't give them, because they don't like to walk and talk. They go, you need me to hit the ground, I'm going to hit the ground. I don't want to be like, hey, get over here and then do something, because it just doesn't work for them, which is understandable. It's like, the spinning plates and tapping your head and rubbing your belly kind of situation. But for me, I'm like, no, give me more. He was like, what do you need me to do? And so I just act like John Wayne. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, Pilgrim.
Yep. So kind of closing up the formal interview part, we'll get to the really fun part next. Some closing thoughts, words of advice for anyone that's maybe trying to be an actor or trying to get into stunts and fight choreography. What would be your words of wisdom to pass on?
Train. Find people who are like-minded. Find people who inspire you. Emulate, but don't imitate. Like, make it your own. See something that they do, put your own remix on it. My crazy career, I was inspired by a handful of people who I know for a fact moving out here, I was going to meet. And it was one of those things where they put so much content online that it's like I watched it all the time. And now it's one of those things when I actually meet people, it feels like I've known them forever just because I've seen them perform so much. And so it's like, oh yeah, I know I have to stop myself from being like, oh yeah, I know who you are. And so it's like, no, this is my first time actually meeting them. And then I meet them. And then somewhere like later on, if we're like actually working together in the day, I usually like bring up a short that they were in or a film that they were in. I'm like, hey man, your performance in this was, and that kind of opens the door to be like, oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, this is so crazy. But like, even going back to my friend Vlad, it was one of those things where like, if I'm on set with him and I meet someone else who's worked with him, I'm like, all right, yeah, I already know who this person is. And then Vlad even steps in and just being like, oh no, Aaron knows, because Aaron's a nerd. He knows. And so I guess that's my main thing is just like, if it's something you truly want to do, you really have to like know what you want to do with it. For me, like, yes, I watch too many movies, but I'm not like a movie buff or a movie snob. Like, I know the movies I watch horror movies and I watch action movies and I watch sci-fi movies. Those are my movies. Like, don't come to me with like something that's the art house, the new art. I'm like, what? What's that? Is there a cool fight in it?
Is that Victorian dress lady going to get in a big battle scene any minute?
Yeah, the best example is Brotherhood of the Wolf. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
I love it.
Yeah, but it's
got a new release.
I know. I know. But it's one of those movies where you're like, what is this movie about, man? And then when it kicks in, I was like, oh, this movie is amazing. It's amazing. And so, but truthfully, yeah, like really train your craft, train your art. If you want to act, walk around your house talking to yourself in character voices, find monologues and try to recite them, record yourself doing it. I tell so many of my friends, I was just like, do that. And they're just like, that's kind of crazy. I'm like, do it. Because you'll get on set one day and they're going to be like, okay, could you do this in like a weird voice? And then if you haven't, you're not going to know what you're capable of. And then if you have done it, then they're going to be like, yo, can you do it again? Can you get another weird voice? And then you just like keep going, just keep going. I had a friend just kind of in the same vein. He was an artist, a singer, a musician, and he did the American Idol audition. And it was one of those things where he came in with 2 original songs and one other song that he was going to sing from somebody else. They had him sing both his original songs and the song from somebody else. And then they were like, okay, do you have anything else? And he just went brain dead. And then before he left, they were like, you could have sang like, your ABCs. It wouldn't have mattered. Like, and so it's that thing of just like have things in your head. Like it's like, and like I told some people, if you don't have a monologue in your head, just start talking. just run off at the mouth. They're going to be like, what was that from? And you're like, I just created it up on the spot. Then they're going to see your creativity. And so it's like, there's always a win-win. You're like, yes, the lose is someone says no, but that's just one no. Just keep going. Just keep going. So like train all the time.
It's good advice.
No, for sure. And I'm just sitting here thinking about how a whole generation behind us thinks of Mark Dacascos as a reality show host. And we all know him from Brotherhood of the Wolf and all kinds of action movie.
Only the strong crying free man.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Yes, man.
Kindred Spirits. He's into action, sci-fi, and horror. I think he's on the right podcast. We have genre people, obviously. Yeah. And he mentioned how much of a nerd he is. We're going to put that to the test here in just a minute. So stay tuned. All right, we're here with Aaron D. Alexander. I don't know why I need to reset. It's not radio; it's a podcast. Everybody knows what we're listening to here. He's on the episode title. But we are going to jump into the Rapid Fire 15. I kind of told him it's a bit of like Inside the Actor Studio, but tailored to what we think we know about him and the stuff he's into. And first thing that comes to mind, don't think too hard about it. There's no score or anything at the end, but we're just going to ask you some kind of nerdy genre stuff.
Bruce, be with me.
I'm glad you seem excited. Some people get nervous about this part. I don't know why. It's weird.
When he said Inside the Actor Studio, I actually have, if it was still going on, rest in peace, James Lipton.
You have your answers for the Proust question.
I've had my answers ready since college. If I ever
audio
was on
podcast.
that show.
Folks need to know you actually reached over and touched a Bruce Lee figure.
My mini Bruce Lee. Sorry, I'll show you guys. But yeah, Aaron's my mini.
Done a lot of space work and sight gags on this audio podcast.
I saw that action figure in the background, and I thought, I was like, it looks like Bruce Lee just based on this murky shape I can see in the background, but I wasn't 100%.
If I could truly show you the whole scene, because I unfortunately have an all-in-one PC, I can't just turn a camera. Bruce Lee is in his fighting stance facing, basically think of it as like a 2D fighting game. Bruce Lee is on the right side, opened up, facing off against a jade dragon.
Perfect.
And so it's dragon versus the dragon. And so like I set that up on purpose.
I like it.
And then if I showed you everything else, you'd be like, wow, you are special.
No judgment here. Again, we have our own fandoms and nerddoms.
Sweet.
Yeah. So let's we'll jump in here. Question number 1. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
It would be a toss-up. All right, it's a 3-way tie. The first Matrix, Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, and Breakin' 1.
Oh, I was not expecting that one.
Yeah, Breakin' came out the year I was born. So my parents had it on a VHS, Breakin' 1 and 2, and I wore it out. Like I wore that VHS out. And it was the same thing with The Last Dragon. They had it on a VHS. I watched that. And then when The Matrix came out, I was a freshman in high school. Now I'm dating myself, 1998. I was a freshman in high school. And I saw it 17 times in movie theaters.
Wow. I know a lot of people that saw it 6, 7 times.
No, I saw it 17 times in movie theaters. And then once it came out on DVD, I will not disclose how many times I watched it, but I actually know all 3 of those movies word for word, start to finish. So like if you hit play, I'm like, everything. I know it's really bad and really annoying.
Ooh, okay.
You could comment on the third movie, except he and Baron and I think had a 45-minute conversation about it when we were shooting Scare Package. Gary Gordy's The Last Dragon. Yes. I think we all bonded over quoting that movie ad nauseum.
Yes, we did.
So Becky, go shuffle your pizza to question number 2.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I might know the answer now, but okay. What is your favorite action movie franchise?
Action movie franchise is not The Matrix.
Oh,
it is not The Matrix. Action movie franchise. Oh my gosh. Franchise meaning like there's at least 3?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's say 3.
I'm gonna throw you for a real crazy loop. Fast and Furious.
Yeah, you're in good company.
Yeah.
Part of the Fast family.
Yeah. That one was cool. I wish it had more fights in it, but it came out at the right time. Fast and Furious. I also like, and I guess a second, because I have to say this, the Rurouni Kenshin live action movies. Those are insane. So big ups to Brian Ezade for putting me on those movies, and I ordered them from Japan. But yeah.
Awesome.
So we've touched around this earlier, but what would be your favorite movie stunt or stunt sequence?
Ooh, sequence, can it be a fight as well?
That's a follow-up question. So let's say action sequence, non-fight scene.
Action sequence.
Maybe a chase, maybe not, since you're averse to being hit by cars.
I do like chases. It would probably have to be, if I have to do a chase scene, I actually don't know.
Maybe we can come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. It'll pop into my head, but yeah, I don't know.
Who is your favorite movie martial artist?
Ooh, I mean, hands down, Bruce Lee. Second would have to probably be Donnie Yen, and then Jackie Chan, and then Jet Li, and
then Sammo Hung to round up the top 5. Come on. Nobody's favorite is Sammo Hung.
Yeah, it was Sammo, man. The Fat Dragon, baby. The Fat Dragon.
That's my nickname. You're blind, whatever you were. Blade Fury, I'm Fat Dragon.
Yeah. Junior Blade. I was Junior Blade.
All right. Now, if it's not on box, Warner, but what is your favorite all-time movie fight scene?
I'd have to say it's a knife fight. It's more than a knife fight. It's a lot into it. But there's a movie called The Man from Nowhere. It's a Korean action movie.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man,
so
Becky,
good.
we're friends now. Yeah. Okay, we're friends. But
it's on Shudder right now.
Yes, please watch it. Yeah. Watch it. Just go on Amazon and buy the Blu-ray. But yeah, there's a fight scene. Not to give spoilers to anyone who's listening that hasn't seen it. There's a fight scene towards the end of the movie where guns and knives are used, and then knives are used, and it's so disgustingly beautiful. Yeah, I have a weird story about that fight scene. I actually had a dream about it before I even saw the movie. Like it's really, really weird and a long story, but I was home for a holiday and like I fell asleep in one of the rooms in my parents' house, and like I literally had the dream of that knife fight. And then I woke up one day and I was just like, oh, what's on Stars? And I was just like, oh, what's this movie? And I started watching the movie from start to finish. And then when it came to that scene, I was like, what? That's what I dreamed. What's going on? And so then I fell in love with the actual movie, and I was just like, this is great. And so usually when everybody asks, like, it's like, what's an action movie I should watch? I was like, Man from Nowhere. Just watch The Man from Nowhere. If there was ever, and I'm putting my hands together in prayer for our listeners, if there was ever a chance for it to have an American remake, I would like to play the lead character. That's what I want.
Put it out there into the universe. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you kind of willed this to happen in your brain before. So maybe putting it out there. It's going to happen now.
Yeah. But no, it's great.
All right. What is your favorite iteration of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Mighty Morphin. The first.
I feel it was the original, yeah.
The originals. Oh, Zeo is a close second, but nothing beats the hardcore original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It's so good. And I've met so many people involved in that show that I didn't. At the time, I was just like, "Oh snap! You're connected. You're connected. You're connected. You're connected." I've met a director. I've met stuntmen. I've met fight choreographers. Like I've met so many people of just being like, "You're like Mighty Morphin." Like they worked on others, but Mighty Morphin was the first big one. I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" And like it just made me feel like I was in the presence of greatness. I don't know. I'm never like that. I was that little kid in elementary playing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers at recess with other friends of just being like, when we formed the Zords, we're literally just running around. It was like really crazy. And I still have some. I'm like looking around my desk, and I'm
all right,
sure
stop teasing the bookshelf because we're gonna have to make you move the screen.
There's a Power Ranger somewhere. I know for sure. There's a Power Ranger somewhere. So, but yes, Mighty Morphin, hands down.
How about your favorite anime, be it a series or a movie?
Oh, movie Ninja Scroll. Jubei Yagyu, so good.
It was a lot of gateway for our generation.
Yeah, like
that was the first one I ever saw. Actually,
man, I am a Ninja Scroll generation. There was another one I saw at too young of an age that I shouldn't have. My parents shouldn't have let me buy this DVD, but it's called Apocalypse Zero. And it was by far the goriest anime I ever saw, but I was just like, yeah, it was like, this is cool. But I actually recently just got hip to Demon Slayer. I don't know if anybody knows about Demon Slayer, but
yeah, just last week they put a movie out in theaters. It's a follow-up to the Netflix series.
It is so amazing. I saw the movie. That movie was actually the first movie I saw in a year and a half. And so I was just like, this movie, and it's amazing. And so like, and it's actually like almost beating all the records of animated movies. And I'm just like, keep going, because it's so good. And so, but yeah, Demon Slayer would probably be my favorite movie right now.
Yeah, so many nerds came out to support it. It's like,
yes.
How often do you get the opportunity to see that?
It's beating Pokemon.
That's
like
crazy.
seriously,
it had one of the highest per theater return in the past couple weeks.
So crazy.
That's awesome.
So crazy.
Speaking of nerdy stuff, what's your favorite comic book run / storyline / graphic novel, whatever you want to say?
Reaching over.
I was like, don't point at that shelf again.
Oh,
we can't see.
I can grab it right here.
What's
so
happening?
not many people know this series, but it is this. The Sword by the Luna Brothers. It's one of, by far, I'm surprised it hasn't become a series and or like a live action series. But yeah, like The Sword, it's basically about this handicapped girl. She's in a wheelchair and she finds this ancient sword that literally gives her immortality. She like horrible things happen to her. Like she gets like cut open and guts everywhere, but then she heals and it's crazy. But then there's these basically gods of the elements, earth, wind, fire, water, and they all come after her because she's now awakened. And so they come to destroy her and then she kills them all. And so, but I didn't ruin anything because it's how all of this stuff happens. And it's like, so good, so good. And I came across it years ago. And I know I'm probably going to get some people being like, oh, you're not a Marvel guy. And I'm like, I like Marvel, but I also like the more adult things.
Again, comics are more than one thing. I don't know why. America's the only country who seems to have a problem thinking that it's a superhero only medium when
you know,
point to a dozen projects out there now that are being turned into movies and shows that are not.
Love it.
Who would be your all-time favorite professional wrestler?
Man, I'm going to say, can I give more than one? Can I give my top three?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I have a guess on one or two of them. But
okay. My number one, if we're just speaking about the world of wrestling, my number one, and it's just because I loved his energy, Diamond Dallas Page.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Macho Man based on admittingly being crazy, and you talking about somebody
doing
like,
the whole DDP
diamond cutters. You don't understand.
Now get down and do his yoga routine.
Oh, knee up, let's go. But no, so Diamond Dallas Page, Bill Goldberg, because I just loved his entrance and his intensity. And just because, yes, okay, I got a top 4. Macho Man is in there, and the Ultimate Warrior. I really like just like
these are on brand picks for you. I'm not gonna lie, all 4 of them.
I love all like
this checks out.
If I always said if I was actually to become a professional wrestler, I would put all of those personalities together and just be this force of just like insanity. And so it's but yeah, I walk around messing with people, just being like, don't make me diamond cut you. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, don't make me throw it up. And they're like, what are you talking? And I go, don't make me. Bang! And they're like, what the hell are you doing?
What are you, 12? Yeah. RKO? Do you know what an RKO is? Same thing. And then you do it to them.
I like to imagine you doing this to either like young people who did not grow up with that, or some random like grandmother who's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Although a lot of grandmas are into wrestling, I'll be honest.
A lot of them are.
A lot, yeah.
I diamond cut my dog a lot. He's a 110-pound Rottweiler, so he can take it. So yeah. I wrestle with him a lot, and so he gets a lot of my finishing moves, and he just thinks I'm playing with him, and I am, but it's all fun and games.
All right, switching gears. What is your favorite video game or video game franchise?
Video game franchise, God of War. Hands down. I'm a Greek mythology nerd, so it's like on par. When it first came out, I was just like, kill the gods. Yes. Yeah. And so that's another character. I know Hollywood is teasing him for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's been going on forever.
I'd love to play that character also. So it'd be really cool.
Speaking of that, what does the dream role for you look like? Is there a part you're dying to play, a role, a famous figure, a character?
I don't want to play a real person. Contrary to popular belief, I actually can't stand based on true story movies. People are just like, all based. I was like, yeah, like even like The Conjuring, even though there's like based on the writings of, I can't even remember the husband and wife.
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah. And I'm just like, whenever it says based, I'm just like, man, then I can go read what happened.
You're into escapism, and the fights that you like aren't happening in real life. So those based on the true stories about some court case aren't going to feature the action you're looking for.
Exactly. And so for me specifically, my perfect role is like, I truly like detective stories. And so I like that mystery to it and stuff. And so there's a series, another series that's the Detective D series. It's basically Kung Fu. It's a Kung Fu movie, but it follows this famous detective. His name is D-E-E. And there's one present day, and then the rest of them are prequels because they, for some reason, didn't want to make anything afterwards, but they did the story correct in that the prequels are just as good as the actual main one. But yeah, the Detective D series would be my favorite series. But it's also like fantastical and like dudes kicking off the wall and crazy flying through the air. And like this one sword can like break all the blades, and like dragons and moving statues. And like there's like a crocodile man and stuff like that. But like I would love to play a detective, like a supernatural detective in a way that could like beat people up. Solve the case and beat people up. Yes.
So your favorite barbecue spot in Austin?
Oh man.
That's a tough one.
It is in Austin.
I feel like it's divisive almost.
So
maybe if not for you, like a way to narrow it down is like, Becky's never been there and she's in town for one day. Which spot are you taking her to?
Black's Barbecue on Guadalupe.
Yeah.
Got the answer a couple times from Austin folks.
Yeah. You
have time, you take her out to Lockhart.
Yeah, hands down. We're going to Lockhart, and we're going to every barbecue spot, every barbecue place in Lockhart.
You go on a tour of all the locations of Leftover season 2 while you're there?
Instead of like a wine tasting or bar hopping, you just go like sample barbecue.
It's like,
Aaron, so you had to have appeared on the Leftovers, right? Everybody we know in Austin had a.
Yes, I actually was on, what was that season?
Season 2, the middle season.
So yeah, I was on
Texas.
I do believe I was on the first episode of season 2. I was tasing a woman and getting into the car. You can see me.
I remember the taser, so I didn't even realize that was you.
That's me.
I got Aaron's memory when it comes to that shit.
Yeah, that's me. It's like, ma'am, calm down. And then the kid rides on his bicycle past me.
Speaking of Texas, speaking of food, when you're in the state or when you're in around the franchise of it, what is your go-to Whataburger order?
Number 5, what size, no tomatoes or cheese with an apple pie and a Dr. Pepper.
I knew you'd have that in the tank ready to go.
I recently had it several times because I was just in Texas. So, yes. And the closest Whataburger from where I live is 6 hours and 15 minutes away in Arizona.
Yes, it is. I can't tell you how I know that.
Don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. It's good that you know that. Yeah. I have a friend that's living in Arizona right now. And I was just like, when are you coming back? It's like, I might need you to pick something up for me, but then I'm
even if it's their ketchup, I even like their weird original ketchup.
Oh, you just order it. You can order the ketchup. It's in the fridge. I got the fancy and the spicy.
Yeah, they have a spicy option, Becky. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know that a lot of people buy that and like have it shipped to them, but you can get it in local grocery stores, right? Like
probably not in California.
Yeah.
Which is sad. California doesn't understand what they're missing out on. They really don't.
No, but even all these chains we talk about, if they are here, they're like 40 miles outside the city. It's very strange.
True. It's so bad.
Other than that, we're not going to complain about this place.
Yeah.
That is a weird drawback.
Yes, there's plenty of things to compare about California and Texas. I guess you can deal with not having a burger.
That's a different podcast to compare.
Completely different. Right, please have me on it.
Sounds good. We'll start that up. What is the cheesiest or maybe the worst song on your workout mix or playlist?
Oh man, which my go-to playlist?
Sure.
I mean,
okay, so I'll say
something embarrassing that you like to work out to.
My most recent playlist that I've been jamming down to, it is called Voices, and it is actually the theme song from Maycross Plus. And when you hear it, you're gonna go, how do you work out to this? One, it's completely in Japanese, and it's very, very slow. It's a very slow song. And so sometimes I'm at a point in my workout where I haven't reached that point yet to where I can hear it. And so I'm just like, okay, go to the next song. I'm like, I'm not ready for that song yet. And so, but it's how are you working out to this?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's called Voices. And I couldn't tell you the artist because it's in Japanese. So I just know the name of the song. It's called Voices.
Nice.
And finally, speaking of what you would rock out, jam out to, what is Aaron D. Alexander's walkout music? Whether it's for your TED Talk, whether it's for you fighting, wrestling, what are you entering to? Let's get the crowd pumped. I
have first song off of my head is The Movement by Kid Ink. That's a very, very that's my song. And then my other song is Start a Riot by Duckworth. It's become famous because it was on the Spider-Verse soundtrack. But those two songs are like, I'm going to kick a door open and the crowd is about to get electrified.
That's what you want.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and given your wrestling icons, that makes sense.
So with the wrestling thing, and I'm pretty sure Sean has seen pictures, I actually did, it's a improv comedy wrestling show called Soul Grudge Showdown. And I got to play a masked wrestler named Hades Kick. And my entrance music was The Messenger. I can't remember who. It's an old rock song. I can't remember who sings. I'm gonna kick myself. Hang on. I'm gonna end up sending you guys an email later. I'm like, this is it. This is the one. Is it even called The Messenger?
Getting an Elton John song, but I have a feeling that's not it.
It's probably not even The Messenger. I'm going to remember what it was, and then I'm going to send it to you guys, and I'm going to send a video of myself doing rocking out to it, because it's a really old school rock song. That's the way it starts. But anyway, I remember I walked out to
That's Benny Hill. That's a different song. What you just
But no, I remember
sex.
I remember I asked them, I was like, what's gonna be my entrance music? And like the band told me, and I was just like, never heard it. And then as soon as they started playing it, I was just like, this is amazing. I got
the Tea Party? Is it the Tea Party?
I don't remember. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna send it to you guys.
Yes.
We want a video link.
We must know.
Yes, yeah, and I'm gonna Instagram a video to you, Sean.
All right, I will forward it on to Becky if you do.
Yeah, and then but yeah, and so I became basically the intercontinental champion of the wrestling organization as Hades Kick, and so
nice.
But we actually did like true like wrestling stuff, and I actually I doubled an actor for an actual upcoming wrestling show, Total Badass Wrestling. Look for it on Snapchat. It's going to be really crazy. But the coordinator was just like, well, have you ever wrestled? And I was like, actually. And I pulled up the pictures and she's like, oh, snap. Okay, yeah, you really have wrestled. And I showed her some videos and stuff. And that was actually like the second time I actually got a job because of my past wrestling career. And so it was like really funny how it like keeps popping up. And I was just like, man, maybe I should just become a wrestler for a while and just see how that goes. And like, yes, I keep saying no to me. It's like, don't do that.
You're better keeping all your options open.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, definitely Kidding the Movement and Start a Riot by Duckworth. Those are my entrance songs to action.
So that's that'll wrap up the rapid fire 15 and yeah, as advertised. Nerd.
Yeah.
But you're in good company here. So
proud of it.
Is there before we let you go, a few more things. Is there any projects on the horizon that you're able to talk about yet? Anything you can kind of vaguely mention you're up to or coming soon?
Watch Jupiter's Legacy. Again, I was only part of the previous team, but I'm watching it now, and it's a good start to the Miller world that's going to be on Netflix. Look for Lucifer season 5B coming up on Friday. Binge it repeatedly, because this is the start of the end. The season 6 is going to be coming out, I think, sometime next year. I don't know when they make these decisions, but the story's coming to an end. And go see A Quiet Place Part 2 in theaters, because whole buddy, it's going to be good. Whole buddy. I can't wait. I'm super excited. I already got my tickets, so I'm super excited for that one, because that was a fun job. It was a really fun job.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I've been waiting for that movie forever.
Oh man, you're one. Here, you want to hear a heartbreaking story? Real quick, heartbreaking story. Finished the job, and the turnaround was amazing. And they were just like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna come out this day, and this day." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Then the pandemic happens, and so all the movies get their releases get canceled and pushed back. But A Quiet Place was one of those movies that was just like, it was pushed back indefinitely. They didn't have a date for it. And then I remember I went to go get some groceries, and I'm walking down the chip aisle, and there was a bag of Doritos with A Quiet Place Part 2 on it. And I was just like, it's not even out. They had to get rid of the merchandise. They just had to get rid of it because it was just sitting there because they had all these promotional things for it. And I was just
the food would expire.
Yeah. And I was just like, dang, man. I was like, this movie, I don't even know when it's going to come out. And then finally they were like, we got a date. And I'm just like, thank you.
Yeah, definitely out now as folks are hearing this, because we're in the interim time, but I believe as of May 28th. So
yes, go see it.
Yep.
Go see it.
And then where can people follow you online? Like, which social media handles do you want to share, or a website?
I'll share my Instagram, because I'm always on that one, because I'm a nerd. And I follow a lot of nerdy stuff. But it's very easy. People get annoyed, but again, there's way too many Aaron Alexanders out there, so I had to do something a little different. _Aaron _D _Alexander _ So
lost everybody with that last underscore.
I know it's like, but it's easy to find me because as soon as you put underscore Aaron, I appear and it's me surrounded by lightning. So it's like, it's
really you can't miss it then.
You really can't. It's like, people will be standing there next to me. Hey, what's your Insta? And I tell them, and they're like, that's you. I'm like, yep, that's me. And they're like,
yep. Follow him. Feel bad about yourself because it looks like he does insane workouts. And we always see the aftermath on his Instagram.
Yep. Feels great.
But do you also share your cheat days like The Rock on Instagram?
No, because that's insane. His stuff is insane. I share just food. Like I like to eat and food is delicious and I work out enough to where it doesn't affect me. So I guess that's my saving grace. But yeah,
that's my goal.
yeah. But no, my Instagram is full of like Sean said, post workout pictures with goofy captions. Some set photos, and then when I can post them, other set photos of projects that I've worked on. Most recently, me sitting in an airplane, because like that's always like a thing because I hate flying, and so it's always just like this might be the last document of me. So, I'm going to take this picture.
Well, again, to your point, you're staying busy. You're flying, yes. And I know you're working between here and Austin, and wherever the jobs will take you, of course.
Yep.
I will say, just back to an earlier point about the fight choreography being one of the most fun parts, just on Scare Package, one of the fun things was Barron's script. He's a star of the So Much to Do segment in Scare Package. I was just a tourist in his world, but just to sit there, Barron in a very Michael Bay way wrote like fight scene and like the way Michael Bay would write chase scene. Yep. So I got to stand there with him and Barron and the DP and kind of hash out beats to a fight scene. And it was just like, it was such a charge to do. And I know that's like Aaron's day to day sometimes, but like just to kind of like be in that and see a couple beats of the fight that were my ideas on screen was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was.
That ended up being a really cool fight with Tony Truck. So you can see on SEAL Team on CBS.
Yeah, who I actually just recently worked with in February. So it was great.
Yes, you were on SEAL Team. That's right.
Yeah. That was a good reunion because everybody was just like, how do you guys know each other? And she was just like, oh, I kicked his ass.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she did. It was great.
I'll also say this, speaking of, the film scene and the community in Austin, Texas, it's very tight. It's very small, at least when compared to LA. And I know you're bouncing into both and you've seen the differences, but if you don't know someone in the industry in Austin, you at least know someone who knows said someone. So I can attest that everyone who knows you in town does nothing but sing your praises. I mean that. There's not a bad word there about you, and not that any of us have heard anyway, and we have ears everywhere.
Yes.
No, we again, it's a testament to you about how much people talk you up. So long time coming to have you on the show. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you guys again, man. This was 100% a pleasure. And yes, finally we were able to make it happen, Sean, because yes, it has been him.
I've been nagging him for a good while.
Hey man, I'm like, dude, I can't, I'm sorry. Oh man, I really want to, I can't. Oh. And then finally this one time I was just like, yes, let's get it done.
No, we're big fans of yours, and we know we will be, and look forward to working with you again down the road here, of course. So yes, keep doing what you're doing. Hard work's paying off, and we are happy as anything to see you killing it out there and continue.
I will try, and because it's not always in my power, and I just hope I keep
effort takes no talent, man. The hard work you're putting in, like you said, train. It's going to pay off. You're going to be in the right place at the right time for one night in New York City.
Yes.
One night in San Francisco.
Yes.
There's going to be a whole series of them like Gary Marshall.
Oh my gosh.
One night in Bangkok. What's the song?
Oh boy.
I'm all for that one because that's going to have to do Muay Thai.
That's going to be dangerous is what that's going to be. Nick Cage reprising his role.
Oh my gosh.
And
Sorry, we're getting loopy here.
I'm really glad to have made a new nerdy friend who also appreciates A Man from Nowhere. So it was an absolute pleasure getting to talk about all this stuff with you and learn about the world of stunts.
Thank you. Yes. Anytime. Again, anytime.
All right, cool, bud. We appreciate it again. The time, the answers, all of it, the information. Do 10 extra burpees for us on your next workout.
Will do.
All right, bud.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.